sun's finally out once again, so I'm outside here. It's beautiful, it's sunny, so we're gonna have a lot more videos outside and do the spiritual walks properly. No, I'm just joking, it's probably gonna rain in a bit. This is the UK, so gotta make the most of it. But today I wanted to speak about believing versus knowing. This has actually been a hot topic amongst people who have been messaging me, commenting, and even close friends and family that I've been speaking to. It seems like there's a very fine line between believing and knowing. However, they are different. And they differ in the level of conviction they bring and present to you in life. So what do I mean by that? Why believe when you can know? When you look at believing implies that there's some sort of underlying assumption. You believe in something because you are not entirely certain. Okay? Because that absolute certainty can only be denoted to knowing. So if you know something, you don't need to believe it anymore. It doesn't require belief. Okay? So let's use an example. Even though this example can be argued to not be absolute, but let's use an example. I am looking at the sky right now, and I know that the sky is blue. It's blue, right? However, if I close my eyes, if I tell you that I know that the sky is blue, that's not knowing, that's now believing. Because I am using the memory of the fact that the sky is blue. And then if I verify, once I open my eyes, the sky may actually be grey. So there's now the potentiality that the assumption or the belief is false. However, the general consensus, most people will tell you that I know, once they close their eyes, they'll say that I know the sky is blue because I just saw it, right? But there is a reliance on memory. There's a reliance on some sort of thought. There's a reliance on some sort of intellectual deduction, right? There's a reliance on some sort of evidence. Now, when the eye is open and there's a direct recognition, it's so direct that there's no path to its recognition. When the eyes are open, that is immediate knowledge, that is immediate knowing that the sky is blue. But when the eyes are closed, you can only assume that the sky is still blue. You're relying on memory. So generally, people will tell you that when the eyes are closed, that they still know. They attribute that as knowing. They are correct in the sense that they have such a high level of conviction because they just closed their eyes. They just closed their eyes. They know the sky is blue because they saw it, but as soon as they close their eyes, they still will tell you that they know in the absolute sense. But if you really look at it, it's not knowledge anymore. You are relying on belief. If you are relying on anything, then it's not knowing anymore. If you are relying on anything to prove something, it's not knowing anymore. Because if both of us are stood here right now and the eyes are open, I don't need to prove to you that the sky is blue. No one needs to prove anything. It's just an underlying knowing. It's known. And so really, there's a very fine line. And I hope you can see that most people will intermix the two. They will intermix knowing and believing. And I'll tell you why this is even worth speaking about in the first place in a second. But I just want to make sure it's clear. Make the difference between believing and knowing very clear. Now, the reason why most people mix believing and knowing together is because they occupy the same placeholder within oneself. So, if I believe something, it can feel as satisfying as knowing something. Okay? So if I've been conditioned from a very young age to believe in a certain set of principles, even though I've just been taught these principles, even though I've just been given these principles to believe in, after time, it dissolves itself within you to the extent where it feels like it's just absolute knowledge. This belief system now shapes your reality and cannot be trumped. But the beauty is that once you start questioning it, if it starts to bring about fear, if it starts to feel uncomfortable to question something, a deep belief within you. And some of these questions are, does God exist? Some of these questions are, am I following the true religion? Or some of these questions are, who am I? What am I doing? Any of these questions, these are fundamental questions that are based on belief systems. And so once you start questioning, when you feel a deep discomfort, it means the discomfort comes from the potential change that might arise by questioning. Now, if I am questioning, if I'm looking at the sky and I know it's blue, if I'm questioning, is it really blue, right? There's no discomfort or fear because the question is so futile, the question is so silly to ask, right? Whereas if there is fear and discomfort when you ask a question, or you question a belief, you inquire about a belief, you investigate an internal belief, that discomfort arises simply because there's a potential that it may not be true. It may be lost. But the sky, the immediate knowing that the sky is blue, that can't be lost. So that's why there's no fear when I question it. And then you may argue, yes, it's because you don't care about the color of the sky as much as you care about what you believe in. That's true. But even knowing doesn't require care. You don't need to care so much about what you know or don't know. Or instead of caring, you don't need to value it so highly because it's just so, it's clear, it's there. It doesn't require any sort of justification. It doesn't require any sort of evidence. It doesn't require the reliance on any form of memory. It doesn't require anything. When something is known, it's not really argued against anymore. It doesn't have the space for arguing, right? If you do try to force yourself to argue, like what I just did now, is the sky blue, right? I'm questioning whether the sky is blue, even though there is the direct knowing that the sky is blue. If I question this, something feels weird within me in the fact that there's no escape out of it. Like I'm trying to create something out of nothing. I can see I can see that the question is being manufactured and that it's false and it's not true. Okay? So why is it important to distinguish then between believing and knowing? Well, we are just here now. Whatever it is you're doing, you are here right now. And in this moment, you may question, what is the purpose of life? Why am I here? What's going on? Just flesh and bone and a lump of meat just talking, and it's I don't want to say strange, but it's hard to put it in words what's taking place, right? So when you go down this path of questioning, really, to simplify things, it's about purpose. Like, what's the purpose of this then? What do you do, right? And then when you continue this path of questioning, you then come to the point of realizing that, okay, look, you may not be able to decipher it, but while I'm here, Let's make it profound. Let's make it meaningful. Okay? Now, meaning and profoundness, which the byproduct of it is fulfillment and happiness that cannot be measured in comparison to temporary happiness and fulfillment. When you look at meaning and purpose, the fundamental prerequisite to satisfy meaning and purpose within anyone is truth. It has to be truth, right? And so if you are observing that which is true, it's more meaningful than that which has been manufactured. And so if you tread the path of knowing rather than believing, then life will automatically be more profound, more meaningful. And this actually manifests itself in the way life unfolds itself, in the way reality unfolds itself. And so you become a lover of truth. If you are trying to live the most profound, the most meaningful life, when you take a look again, what you really are is a lover of truth. And so this is why believing, because of even if it's a small potentiality, when it introduces the potentiality that it may not be true, you get a whole load of suffering that may come with it. You get a whole load of, sense of meaninglessness, right? You may be believing in something or doing in something that you've been told is what you should do, and you now believe, and it's part of your belief system, and everything on paper checks out, but it just feels meaningless. Your everyday routine is just so mundane, and it feels meaningless. So instead, question all of that and look at what is really true. What is true? And really start with the very basics, because the absolute truth of this moment right now is overlooked. And when you overlook this very moment, this very absolute truth that is taking place, you are overlooking meaning. And so that's why it may seem like life has no meaning. That's why you may find yourself in a pit. And to be honest with you, I probably need to make another video about this, because I think I could do a bit more with clarifying this further, but I'm happy to hear about what you have to say. So, leave a comment, message me. Let's continue this discussion. I think this is actually really the bridge between, people who are very entangled in dense matter and reality, and can only define or find a justification of reality based on its density and its materialism, right? And it's a bridge between those kind of individuals who believe in this, and then individuals who actually are okay with saying, I don't know, which actually provides you with a much bigger or a much more meaningful possibility to reality. Because when you say you don't know, you are now open to knowing. And that's a very beautiful position to be in, rather than believing or falsely knowing in something that may potentially be wrong. Okay? And yeah, I probably need to make a part 2 of this, but thank you so much for watching. This is Hassan from the Spiritual Walks, and we are all on a journey towards the truth.